Welcome to Revolution and Ideology. I'm Nick.
Jared.
And in this episode, we are going to go over basically 2020 in review, talk about the content we created, sort of the most viewed videos and downloaded episodes, and then what we have planned for 2021. So in addition to the YouTube channel, we also have the podcast. So we're going to talk about these two things separately, kind of the channel and the podcast. So let's start with YouTube, I guess.
Wait, hold on. Before we even talk about our channel, what'd you think of 2020?
Like the year itself,
yeah,
overall,
pretty
or
dope,
like our content? The year itself was absolute chaos.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm still depressed.
Right.
It's not over, really. I mean, it's like the long 2020.
I mean, this might just be like the new normal. Is that what people were saying now?
Yeah.
Like, this is it? Just constant political chaos, never ending. We're always going to be dealing with new derivatives of COVID-19,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's going to be COVID-20 and 21. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. It sucked. It sucked. I'm tired of being inside.
Serious. We published 41 videos in 2020, which is interesting. I was kind of surprised when I looked up that number. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. Felt like we did. I mean, I don't know. No, I don't have any thoughts on it. We did some videos. I never counted them.
No, me neither until I looked up the stats for this. Our most viewed videos by number of views is the video we did on the Netflix film El Hoyo, though we both know that those aren't real views.
Let's stop and do these. You guys can go through the channel and look at this. The analysis of the Netflix film El Hoyo. Great movie, and we had a good time doing the episode. But the vast majority of those views, and as much as we like those views and those clicks, are people just looking for a full version of the movie.
Yeah, they check out after about 30 seconds or so when they realize that they're just hearing both of us talk about the film and it's not actually the film itself.
Yeah.
So that one basically doesn't really count. The next most viewed video of 2020 by number of views is our super short video on Antonio Gramsci and hegemony, which we originally created for our ideology class.
Yeah, I don't even think I created. No, I think you created that one on your own.
No, I did. Yeah. That is just continuously the most viewed video for some reason if we're going purely by views. The second, or I guess third, depending on how we're counting, 4 types of social movement I created also for my sociology courses and for our class on revolution. Same with the next one, which is what is revolution? And then the video false generosity, which I did kind of like a video essay sort of on Paulo Freire's idea of false generosity in his Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And then the surprising one next is our video that we did on Zoroastrianism. I guess it's not really a video, it's just us talking. The episode on Zoroastrianism.
We don't have any camera time or anything on that one. But essentially on that one, I go through the history of Zoroastrianism as the original monotheism. Mm-hmm. We read some of the Gathas and so on and so forth. And we wanted to do that episode because I'm super passionate about not only just my Persian heritage and things along those lines, but trying to dispel notions of ideological purity among the more popular monotheisms like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It was just kind of like a critique of this idea, and we never really thought that one would be as popular as it was, but I guess there's just kind of a dearth of other content on Zoroastrianism.
Yeah.
We didn't think that one would be as popular as it was.
No idea. That one was a shocker for sure. Yeah. Closely just behind that is the video Are You an Anarchist, which I did just a short visuals on David Graeber's essay of the same name, Are You an Anarchist? The answer might surprise you, I think, is the full...
We lost David Graeber in 2022.
Oh, man, that's right.
Yeah. So.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Shout out to Graeber. Oh, man. Anyways, the short video I made based on his essay, we did that for our class. Was that for class? I think it was. The Stateless Society.
It's the Stateless Society class.
So that one actually has quite a lot of views also, which is really good. If we go by watch time, number of hours watched, then El Hoyo is still the top one, but we know that's nonsense. The next one is the video on Zoroastrianism. So
people are clicking that and actually
watching,
listening for longer than 30 seconds, which is a lot of views on YouTube, not just ours, but everybody, gaming channels and so on. It's just people clicking, watching for 1 minute and then being done. But no.
But they are into that video and watch it extensively, which is interesting.
Yeah, if you have any, in the comments, why? Why do you think Zoroastrianism was such a popular topic this year? At least for us. We're not,
Gramsci video was just after Zoroastrianism. Then it goes 4 types of social movement. false generosity, and then surprisingly, our episode Transatlantic Slave Trade, we did a 2-part series on that. The first one of that is the next according to ours, and then after that, Who Are the Kurds? The first part.
It's only surprising because we actually, I do think we did a hell of a job on that one. I usually don't like a lot of our videos when I'm done and I watch them again later, but I thought we did a really good job on the transatlantic slave trade. The reason it's surprising is actually just because it's so long in comparison to a whole host of other channels that have done like cute little 5-minute like cartoons. There's a TED Ed one we use in class that really, I mean, it is perfect for 5 minutes. So we're kind of surprised that people took the time to listen to our I think that one's damn near 2 hours, 2 hours of rambling on about like the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. And then Who Are the Kurds? There is actually, we did fill a pretty good gap there, I thought, with the Who Are the Kurds episodes.
Yeah, okay, most controversial video. This one is super interesting because this one actually was kind of shocking to us also. The one I think we've got the most comments on of people disagreeing with us and just, let's be honest.
Angry white scientists. Yeah. Angry white male scientists.
The video we did on scientific racism where we talked about Carl Linnaeus and taxonomy and how it's inherently racist, etc. People hated that video. So mad.
This old Swedish dude's like name through the mud apparently is just a no-no in the scientific community.
But I think it just exemplifies both how invested people are in their whiteness and how invested they are in the scientific discourse. Like we attacked both of those things apparently in that video, and they hated it.
Yeah, and we literally take none of it back. Like we understand. Like even if I'm like kind of like verbally responding to comments here that I recall from back in the day on that. Like it's not that Carl Linnaeus himself was like a major like partaker in the transatlantic slave trade. He didn't own a plantation, etc. It's the fact that within like the ethos of the era, that's what clouded his ability to do like good scientific work, right? Like unbiased, right? Objective scientific work. And that was the point of that episode. It's not just that like science played a huge role in manufacturing the notion of race, or we should say maybe false science now is what we'd call it, but that the science itself is not objective because the science is being done and the questions of science are being asked, right? Like when you form a hypothesis, that is subjective. Like that individual is asking specific questions, not based on like some sort of objectivity, but their own socialization. The environment they grew up in is what is forcing them to ask these very, very specific questions. And then their findings are also clouded by that socialization. So yes, we made the very controversial assertion apparently that science can never be fully objective no matter how it poses to be objective because the people...
Well, we didn't even talk about that really in that episode. We literally were just talking about Carl Linnaeus and taxonomy and how it was inherently racist based on the things that you just said.
But then the super white dude scientists came in and they revealed their inability to be objective in looking at like this is what this guy said. Like you don't break humanity up into 4 or 5 different like races or sub races of people unless you have some sort of socialization or some sort of vested stake in doing so.
Well, plus like the dividing them wasn't even that racist. The putting them in a hierarchy was the racist part.
Right. And then adding like these very like
descriptors that are wholly just
what I don't even remember what some of the comments said.
Lactate profusely.
Well, no, I remember those, but one of the rationalizations was that like he called Asian people stingy or something like that because like he traveled and that was his experience. Then it's not science. That's fine. Then he shouldn't. That's the point. Like,
and that's no less racist.
Exactly. So like one of the accusations is that we're sitting here pontificating in judgment of this individual, of this Swedish scientist, right? And that is completely subjective on our part. But that was the point. Like the irony of calling us out on that while we're calling out the other dude on his subjectivity is, I mean, it has to be lost on these morons.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh God.
Right.
We made an episode called Is Trump Fascist that we actually thought would be controversial, but no one cared. And that was pretty
no one
surprising.
watched it either. So
But the one on the Civil War, I don't know if you've watched the stats lately, but we made one on like the possibility of civil war in 2020 based on the outcome of the election. And interestingly, like when it first came out, it didn't have a lot of views, but in the past month, it's had a lot of views. I guess that's unsurprising. And if we're looking at just like likes versus dislikes to be like an indicator of controversy, that one's probably the most controversial. I think it has like 73% likes or something, which is interesting. So
I thought scientific racism still had more.
It was close. Split, it was like 75%. Yeah. So we got a lot of comments on that video too. A lot of them, it was kind of weird because a lot of them were oh, I'm interesting to see like an update after the election or whatever. And some of them were just like so blatantly white supremacists, like we deleted some of them, right?
Yeah, like some of them basically like warning people to like arm up and things along those lines. Like it was
or like
pretty
attacking us as like, yeah, it was just ridiculous, like absurd. But
oh, was that the one where we got the anti-Semitic comments and stuff on too?
Yeah.
And yeah,
how we were just Jewish academics that had no reason voicing our opinions and stuff. Like, get out of here with your white supremacy. Yeah, ridiculous. Let's talk about the podcast. We uploaded 36 episodes of the podcast. A lot of them, I mean, there's a huge crossover, right? A lot of them are the same episodes. We just upload the audio version for the podcast.
Right.
Let's talk about the most downloaded episodes in 2020. Interestingly, the first 2 episodes we ever did in the podcast were a 2-part series on human nature, where we looked at like Hobbes and Locke and Rousseau, and I don't even remember who else. We talked about Graeber and Wingrove in those episodes and so forth. And
right.
Those were the most 2 downloaded episodes in 2020, which was interesting. Then
because it's so different than the YouTube channel where they want more like less, I don't know. It does feel like the YouTube audience wants a little bit less like philosophy and like back and forth and more just like a cute little like PowerPoint presentation of this idea. So it was interesting, and that speaks to the difference in the formats, though, of what people go on YouTube looking for versus what people that want to just kind of sit down and like digest a podcast. That's what they're looking for.
The third was the most surprising by far, was the episode on Tecumseh. That had the 3rd most downloads.
That warms my heart because I love Tecumseh, and Tecumseh did not do well on YouTube. If you're watching this right now, which you're probably only watching this if you're one of our like usual watchers.
Which you probably listened to the Tecumseh episode.
Right, so you've already done. But if you haven't, go check out the Tecumseh episode because like he's dope. Like he was dope. Like that's
the 4th most commonly downloaded episode was Socialism 101. Which was just the audio from the What is Socialism video. That was a lecture we made for, that was stateless too, I think, for our class, Stateless and Society. No, actually it was ideology, I think.
You're the sociology guy. So
I don't know. It's my video, and I don't even remember. Whatever. After that was the French Revolution. Then the episode we did on divine right and, divine right to rule, etc. I was kind of surprised by that. Then after that was Sufism and Anarchism. We did a 2-part series on that, which was actually pretty interesting because one of our students came to us and said they were interested in exploring this topic. So we did an episode with them, with Dante. So if you haven't watched or listened to those 2 episodes, go do that because it was pretty interesting. And then after that was our episode on the Romanization of Christianity. So those were the most downloaded podcast episodes in 2020. We also did our first cross episode this year with Nyana, the host of the Curious Bodhi podcast, which was a fun experience where she reached out to us and said she had discovered our podcast and wanted to do a joint episode on the revolutionary potential of Buddhism to sort of bring our wheelhouses all together, which was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think she had saw one of the episodes where we talked about Taoism, one of my favorite like philosophies. Again, I will not pretend to be a poser and say I'm a Taoist. I'd like to be, but I'm not. But like, and when she saw that, and I think she made that connection, and that's why she reached out. It's pretty good, though. I think that episode ended up pretty good. It's pretty underwatched, but I think it still was a good experiment. And I think part of like we ran into some technical difficulties because she's in Europe and like time frame, and then like getting the Skype to work. But I think it went pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. We actually are looking forward to doing another podcast with her at some point. Her story is just interesting. She, from the U.S., was working in London, basically just became completely like disheartened with her work that she was doing in sort of the Western world and decided she wanted to just leave London. And now she lives in Portugal on like, I don't know if I want to call it a homestead or whatever, but like in a shipping container home, etc. So we really want to do an episode with her, and she's willing on the idea of just exit, like leaving society altogether, and what that
with
looks
somebody
like.
that's done it, right? Because we've definitely done episodes talking about it, but let's be blunt, look where we are. Neither of us have really done a full-fledged exit. So that'll
be an interesting exploration. Also, if anyone out there has a channel or a podcast that wants to collaborate at all at any time, feel free to contact us, send us a message on Twitter or YouTube or email us or whatever. We are definitely willing to collaborate with people and share knowledge and be enlightened and so forth. So if anyone's out there that creates content of any kind and wants to collaborate, let us know. All right, so what do we have planned for 2021? We just went through, we always maintain a list of sort of a backlog of episodes that we have planned to publish and record and research and so forth. And so we just went through and created a pretty comprehensive list of things. That's not to say all these are going to get made, but
it's just stuff we're thinking about. And it is all kind of random. It's either based on stuff like that I already have prepared for when I teach in class, or stuff that he already has prepared, because it's super helpful to have like a good background knowledge. There's also stuff on there that we want to research, so that's the other thing. So this list is either composed of things we already feel pretty well grounded in and can just like jam through. But it's also a list of things that we also are interested in researching ourselves, and so hopefully we have the time to do that and to be able to do these concepts well.
So let's talk about just a few of them. We want to analyze the state. We're going to do probably a two-parter on the Marxist conception of the state. That'll be one episode, and then a second episode on kind of the anarchist conception of the state, focusing on Bakunin and some of his work. I taught a new class in 2020 titled State and Society, where we went through different theories of the state and so forth. There's actually a lot of content I created already for that class that we'll be publishing in 2021, talking about Machiavelli and like all kinds of different things. And we do Marx and the state in that class. So we'll talk about a bunch of that content there, and then talk about Bakunin as well to kind of get the anarchist and the Marxist conception of like what is a state and how do they consider the state. The next one on the list is Antonio Gramsci. We have this super short video that's been historically our most popular video like of all time that we made specifically for our ideology course, talking about the concept of hegemony. I've always been really, really interested in Gramsci as sort of a Marxist scholar, but a Marxist scholar that existed in a really interesting time in history, essentially like the beginning of the 20th century, during the Russian Revolution, etc. And I view him as sort of a bridge between like the hardcore materialist Marxists and some of the Marxists that lean a little more ideologically. So he definitely inspires like Lukács and Althusser and so forth. So I've always been interested in digging into his theory in depth. And my plan is, at this point, to write a book on Gramsci, just a short introductory text, publish that, and do an in-depth episode on him and his ideas. I have the book about a third done, but I'll be honest, I've lost all motivation right now just because it's been break and COVID and so forth. So I need to ramp that back up. And when that's ready, we'll do an episode and publish the book and stuff like that. The next thing that we'll do, we really want to talk about is the Russian Revolution. We're not super into this because so many people have done it so well, out. But
like every armchair wannabe leftist and all of their podcasts, sorry if I'm calling anybody out, but like they've all beaten this to death.
And they've done it really, really well. It's not like it's all garbage. Like, maybe if we decide that we'll have something unique to add, we might do an episode on that. Maybe not. Who knows? We'll see. If you really, really want to see it for some reason,
it's just been
let
beat
us
to
know.
death. Everybody that wants to role play as a Bolshevik or Menshevik has done this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing we plan on doing for sure is, mainly because we want to do an episode on the Black Panthers when the new film comes out, which I think it's supposed to be actually next month or in March.
We did
the
trailer breakdown. For, it was a shorty,
Judas
short
and the
for
Black
us,
Messiah,
30 minutes.
right?
Yeah.
So we want to do the Black Panthers, but we feel like we can't do the Black Panthers unless we do civil rights overall. And we really present this in our courses as like the long view of civil rights, starting back with like we've already done Nat Turner and so forth. So we'll probably pick up there and bring it all the way up to the 1960s so that we can talk about the Black Panthers and so forth. So we'll do that, and it'll probably be a series of episodes. There's no way we're going to do all that in one episode.
Yeah, basically trying to do the history of civil rights between, because we've already done the other ones, between Nat Turner and essentially like at that point Red Tails. I mean, if we want to get through World War II, and then to try and set the context for the 50s. Yeah.
Jared's been doing a lot of research on, I mean,
it's my job, 20th century history. So,
He's teaching a class that he's putting online this semester, so he has a lot of work that he's been doing there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just news. Some of it's new research for me because I tended to be more oriented either towards like U.S. history, a lot of Middle Eastern history. Those were my two wheelhouses, and then in addition to that, like obviously based on our podcast, just revolutionary history. But that revolutionary history was just kind of sporadic and dotted around the world. Like I would emphasize Cuba, which we have an episode coming up on, or I would emphasize France, or I'd emphasize Kenya, or things along those lines. So I've had to actually now fill some gaps, some both ideal and material gaps between these revolutions, especially the more modern ones. And that's where a lot of this new research is coming in. So like that, there'll be episodes on a whole host of various topics regarding like the 20th century. So we'll be talking like a little bit more like Algerian independence movements. We'll actually do a full episode on the Mau Mau. We have like a historical context video on the Mau Mau that we use for class that was actually surprisingly popular. We'll now do a full blown episode on the Mau Mau movement, and not just the Mau Mau movement, the oppression of England, of English colonialism during that period of time as well.
Yep.
We might dabble a little bit in Indian independence. We'll talk a little bit Cold War like dynamics. We'll definitely spend a lot of time talking about like the imagined binary paradigm. The world was not really split in two, as we're told, especially here in the United States. That there was actually a whole development of like non-aligned nations. So we'll be talking about Bandung, Indonesia, and the movement in 1955, and all of those things. Like that's kind of the plan, is to like dig a little bit into concepts that we think are obviously overlooked in Western, at least for me as the historian here, that are often overlooked in Western historiography, wrongfully omitted, I would argue, and help manufacture this whole like Western exceptionalism, because that's got to go. Like that's got to go. And yeah, one of our things that we want to do is to challenge this idea of Western exceptionalism. That's a big part of our channel, or American exceptionalism.
We also want to do either 1 or 2 episodes on the war on drugs. We want to cover it from Jared's angle on it is like the international impacts, obviously, how it paved the way for a lot of U.S. imperialism and so forth. And then
especially in Latin America, right?
Yeah,
and the manufacture of like refugee crises and immigration crises are all like self-created by the United States itself, which is like the greatest irony. But yeah.
And then I'll cover as a sociologist the impact that it's had in the United States specifically, right, for Black communities and so forth, and like how the impact it's had at home.
Right.
So it'll either be a 1 or 2-parter. We'll see how that one plays out. Overarching topics that I don't know how they're going to play out yet that I'm really interested in researching this year. I have a few of them, actually. I'm diving really, really deep into nihilism this year. I've actually started this research. It's been going on for a year at this point, but I really am ready to start creating some content. I really went down this rabbit hole of researching revolutionary nihilism and realized that we couldn't, I really was just going to do an episode on that, but I realized that we like really couldn't just do that without kind of starting at the beginning of what is nihilism and et cetera, and all the different forms of nihilism and the history of nihilism with Nietzsche and like so forth. So that's going to come to fruition this year in some way. I don't really know how many episodes that will be or what it will look like, but that research is going to happen for sure. And so we will
God's dead, brother.
Yeah, a series of episodes on that. Then interestingly, last week, one of our previous students, Gabe, I had a conversation with him, and he said he's going deep into existentialism this year. We've actually done an episode with him already. He helped us analyze the movie The Hunt. And
that was a flop. That was a flop episode.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie sucked, let's be honest, but we just did the episode because it was fun. We had just watched the film and wanted to talk about it. So he's going into existentialism, so I reached out to him to see if he would want to do a collab episode this year and appear and do an episode on existentialism and nihilism and where those two things cross paths. So that will definitely happen. As part of the series on nihilism, I definitely want to do an episode on the situationalists, which I already have research on, so I already know that. So when it's time, we'll knock that one out as well, and like the revolution of everyday life and the society of the spectacle and like those types of things. We'll explore those in depth as well. Then Gramsci, like I mentioned, I'm deep in that research. And then something else that I've been researching just on the side that I actually became interested in when we were did our series on Marcuse, One-Dimensional Man and the End of Utopia and so forth, is sort of the idea of the revolutionary potential of art. So I've been doing a lot of research in Walter Benjamin and Adorno and Marcuse and so forth. So we'll do an episode on that at some point for sure as well.
And we're going to debate Banksy?
Yeah, we will for sure. And I'm really interested in film and like the revolutionary potential of film. So we'll do an episode or 2 or who knows how many. But yeah, that's kind of just an overview of the things that we have in the hopper for 2021 that we want to talk about. I think we've kept the rhythm of sort of doing an episode a week, video or a podcast episode once a week. I think we're going to abandon that completely for 2021, and we're just going to start cranking out content. We have so many episodes that we want to do. We have a few that are already recorded that I haven't edited yet and posted. So all that, we're just going to start pumping them out when they're ready. And instead of trying to like meter them over like once a week and have this huge backlog, we're just going to start knocking them out and putting them out as soon as they're ready. So you can digest them as soon as you are ready as a listener, and as soon as you have time. And don't feel bad if you don't have enough time to listen to all of them. Just kidding. You should feel bad because you should listen to everything that we have to say. Any closing thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, this year's got to be better than the last, right?
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
If it's worse,
I mean,
then...
we'd like to do a little bit more like pop culture stuff, sports stuff, but like we have tried those in the past because, our interest is not just like whatever crapping on history or giving people a new perception of sociology. Those are definitely our main like professional passions, but like we're not like robots. So yeah, I'm super into like hoops and hip hop, and we play some games and things along those lines. But every time we've like tried to dabble in just something to like take some of the academic part out of it, those haven't gone so well. But we might keep trying to.
So many people do.
We might throw a couple of those in there, right? Still, sprinkle a couple of those.
A lot of people do it so much better than us, is why we really don't.
Yeah, I mean,
like
if you want to watch somebody more knowledgeable about the NBA, you could definitely find them rather than myself.
Like even the DC, like when they stormed the White House. I thought for 5 seconds about doing an episode on that. But like Rev Left Radio immediately put an episode out that's incredible. Or like Why Theory, which is a podcast. If you haven't listened to it, find that. They did one too that was really, really good, and so forth. So like other people are faster and better at us than doing that. So we like to do it, but unless it's specifically in our wheelhouse, then it's like...
I mean, and regarding current events like that, like there was just, we're not going to be, this is not like our actual like paying job, unfortunately. Right. So all of our other responsibilities mean we can't just drop those and be like, I don't know, the Young Turks or Democracy Now! And do an immediate like reaction to the storming of the Capitol, but we can't do that. So
exactly. All right. So if you have any feedback on what we have planned or what we did in 2020, or there's specific topics you'd like us to cover, or something that we mentioned that you're really excited about, leave us a comment and let us know that so we can get some feedback from our viewers and listeners, and that will help guide our content. If you really want to support us and help us to crank out all of these episodes as soon as we absolutely can, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/revolution and ideology. I'm Nick.
Jared.
Later.